Fear is a powerful force that shapes much of our lives. And while we often talk about the fear of height or enclosed spaces or fear for animals, there's another fear that runs even deeper: the fear of abandonment. This fear isn't just about being left alone, it's about the anxiety of losing connections, the dread of being unwanted, and the deep-seated worry that no one will truly stay. Unlike the more obvious fears, abandonment issues often lurk in the shadows, quietly shaping our relationships, our choices, and even our sense of self-worth and reality. Imagine living in a constant gnawing fear that the people you care about the most suddenly disappear from your life. This haunting fear, often rooted in abandonment anxiety, can quietly shape every decision you make, every relationship you build. Abandonment anxiety are more common than you might think, and they can affect everything from your relationships to your career and even your self-esteem. Take for instance a client of mine, and let's call her Emma. Emma is a successful entrepreneur who seemed to have it all together on the surface. But beneath that success on the surface, Emma was grappling with deep-seated fears that were quietly wreaking havoc on her life. Emma's professional and personal lives began to unravel. Her relationships were suffering, her business was in trouble, and she felt more alone and depressed than ever. Realizing that something had to change, Emma turned to coaching, and during our first session, I asked her a simple yet profound question: what is it that you fear the most? After a long pause, she replied, being left alone with no one to turn to. Emma's relationship disintegrated before they even really started, and this was a very serious concern for her. She believed she wasn't good enough or just unlucky in love. But the truth was more complex. The relationships she committed to and poured herself into eventually broke. The relationship she committed to broke because Emma was terrified of being left alone, so much so that she clung to her partners too tightly. This fear of abandonment made her to be overly clinging and suffocating, choking the life out of her relationships. So eventually Emma learned not to get attached, but this also led to another problem. Emma became non-committal in her relationships. She distanced herself emotionally, thinking it would protect her from getting hurt again. This lack of commitment meant that her partners didn't feel needed or valued, leading them to leave. And so Emma found herself in a painful loop, pushing people away, then feeling abandoned when left. To cope with this feeling, she threw herself into her work, using this as a defense mechanism. Whenever her personal relationships became too serious or uncomfortable, she would dive deeper into work. And this meant overmanaging her team, micromanaging every detail of her business, and pushing her colleagues to their limits. This behavior then created another problem, which is a toxic work environment. Her team felt overburdened and unappreciated, leading to high turnover and declining morale. This realization was a turning point because Emma finally realized that her fear of abandonment was driving her behavior. Her fear of abandonment was at the core of her struggles, both personally and professionally. Abandonment issues often take root in childhood during those early formative years. Maybe a parent left, there was a significant loss, or there was inconsistency in the care that the individual received. These experiences can leave lasting emotional scars, shaping how we connect with others later in life. It's like Trying to build a house on a shaky foundation, no matter how strong the walls are, the fear of it all collapsing never really goes away. The psychologist John Bowlby, known for his work on attachment theory, explained that early separations can create deep-seated fears affecting our ability to trust and form relationships as adults. For someone like Emma, this fear manifested in an over-reliance on work as a way to avoid dealing with her emotional issues. Her need for control and validation through work drove her to overmanage and push her team too hard, leading to a vicious cycle of professional and personal breakdowns. This struggle with anxiety isn't particularly unique to Emma. Even famous people also have it. Example is the actor and filmmaker Charlie Chaplin. Chaplin's early life was marred with abandonment. His father, an alcoholic, left the family when Charlie was just a child. His mother, Hannah, suffered from severe mental illness and was institutionalized multiple times. These experiences left Chaplin and his brother to fend for themselves in the slums of London. The fear of being left alone became a deep-seated part of who he was. As an adult, Chaplin's need for control was evident in his work. He was a perfectionist, driven by a fear of failure and a need to ensure everything was done just right. His relationships too were marked by instability as he struggled to trust those closest to him. Chaplin's story shows how early abandonment can cast a long shadow, influencing not just personal relationships but also professional life. In Emma's case, once we identified abandonment as a root cause, we could begin the real work. I guided her through the process of unpacking these fears. I tried to help her to see how her childhood experiences have shaped her adult behaviors. Together, we were able to work on finding a healthier balance between her personal and professional life. Emma started to address her fear of abandonment by allowing herself to be vulnerable and building trust in her relationships. At work, she learned to delegate effectively and trust her team. She also began to foster a more positive work environment, which helped her improve morale and productivity. In a relationship, Emma started to communicate more openly with her partner, expressing her fear and needs in a more constructive way. By being open, she started healing, and also it helped to build stronger and more trusting relationships. Over time, Emma began to break free from the cycle of fear that held her back. She became more confident in both her personal and professional life, no longer letting the fear of abandonment control her. So how can you start dealing with abandonment issues? First, you need to be honest with yourself. Acknowledge the fears you might be carrying, and then take time to reflect on your past. What are the experiences that might have planted these fears? Now, understanding the root is the key to overcoming them. Try journaling, write down your feelings and see if you can trace them back to earlier experiences. You also need to work on building trust in your relationships. Open up to those close to you and let them support you. Trust is built one step at a time. Let people you trust know about your past and how it's shaping your behavior in the present, and so you can work together in building and fostering trust, and so you can reduce the fear that you have in those relationships. Finally, if these fears feel overwhelming, consider talking to a coach or a therapist who can guide you through the healing process. Remember, abandonment issues don't have to control your life. With awareness and effort, you can learn to build stronger, healthier relationships. Start the journey of healing today and take back control over your life and your happiness.